How the Assistant Principal Stole Christmas. Poem written by Miss Kerri Kennedy. Adapted from How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Written by Dr. Seuss. Every student at Old Town Elementary School liked the holidays a lot. But Mr. Cyr, who lived in the office, did not. Mr. Cyr hated the holidays, the whole holiday season. Now please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be perhaps that his tie was too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his ties, he stood there on winter vacation eve, hating the kids. Staring out from his office with a sour frown at the happy children getting ready to go to town. For he knew every child in school was busy now, celebrating what makes the holidays cool.
And they're spreading the cheer,
he snarled with a sneer.
The holidays are coming. They're practically here.
Then he growled with his principal fingers nervously drumming.
I must find some way to stop holidays from coming.
For tomorrow, he knew. All the good girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their friends and laugh, learn, and play till the long day's ends. And the noise, oh, the noise. That's one thing Mr. Cyr hated.
The noise, 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 noise!
Then the children would meet in the cafeteria to sit down to a feast. And they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on pizza and rare Italian dunkers, which was something Mr. Cyr couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every kid in OTES would stand hand in hand, and the kids would start singing. They'd sing and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more Mr. Cyr thought of this sing, the more he thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 8 years I've put up with it now. I must stop the holidays from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. Mr. Cyr got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, Mr. Cyr laughed in his throat. And he made a quick Santa Claus hat and coat. And he chuckled and clucked, what a great principal trick! With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick! All I need is a reindeer. Mr. Cyr looked around. But since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop old Mr. Cyr? No. He simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called Dr. Tool. Then he took some red thread and he tied a big horn on top of her head. Then he loaded some bags, and he tried not to drool, on a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Dr. Tool. Then Mr. Cyr said, giddy up! And the sleigh started to fall toward the communities where the kids were playing in the hall. All the kids were busy, happy joy filled the air. All the kids were learning without care. When he came to Mrs. Smith's room, this is stop number 1, the old Mr. Cyr hissed. and he jumped through the door, empty bags in his fist. Then he slunk up to the bookshelves, where the beautiful books sat all in a row. "These books," he grinned, "are the first things to go." Then he slithered and slunk, with a smile that'd make you cry, around the room, and he took every supply. Crayons and paintbrushes, paper, all the things fun. Math tools, calendars, posters, and drums. Then he slunk to the gym. He took Miss A's equipment. He took all the balls. Miss A would need a new shipment. He cleaned out that gym, quick as a flash. Why, Mr. Cyr even took Miss A's sneaker stash. Then he loaded the gear on the sled with glee. "And now," grinned Mr. Cyr, "I will steal their tree." And Mr. Cyr grabbed the tree and he started to shove, when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a secretary there. It was Mrs. Clark, who was kind and fair. Mr. Cyr had been caught by her with her kind holiday spirit, who couldn't believe what she saw, and she just wouldn't hear it. She stared at Mr. Cyr and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our tree? Why?" But you know that old Mr. Cyr was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet Mrs. Clark," mean old Mr. Cyr lied, "there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it back to my office, my dear. I'll fix it up there. Then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled Mrs. Clark. She had nothing else to say. And he gave her more work to do and sent her away. And when she went to her desk with her pile, he went to the sleigh and he put the tree on with a smile. Then the last thing he took were art materials from Mrs. Dunphy. Then he went to the sled himself, the old liar. On her walls he left nothing to make the room look comfy. And the one speck of food that he left the calf was a crumb so small it would make you laugh. It was 2:15, all the kids still shaking their heads. All the kids still confused when he packed up his sled. Packed it up with their books, the supplies. Then when done, he packed the balls and the sneakers, the art and the fun. Down to the office he went, the one down the hall. He rode with his load to the office, using the sleigh for it all. "Pooh, pooh to the kids," he was nastily humming. "They're finding out now that no fun is coming. They're just realizing it, and I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a minute or two. Then the kids at OTES will all cry, 'Boo-hoo!'" "That's a noise," grinned Mr. Cyr, "that I simply must hear." So he paused, and Mr. Cyr put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the school. It started in low and became so cool. But that sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound was merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry. Very. He stared out at OTES. Mr. Cyr popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every student at OTES, the tall and the small, was singing without anything at all. He hadn't stopped the holiday spirit from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And Mr. Cyr, with his smelly feet stuck to the floor, stood puzzling and puzzling. What's the singing for? It came without books. It came without balls. It came without art supplies and fun in the halls. He puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then Mr. Cyr thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe the holiday spirit, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe, perhaps, it means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Old Town they say that Mr. Cyr's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the afternoon light, and he brought back the supplies with so much joy you could hear it. And he himself, Mr. Cyr, brought back the holiday spirit.
With this coat and this hat, I'll look just like St. Nick. Ho, ho, ho!
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel.
You're as cuddly as a cactus and as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch.
You're a bad banana with a greasy black peel.
Just face the music, you're a monster, Mr. Grinch. Yes, you are.
Your heart's an empty hole.
Your brain is full of spiders. You got alligator soul, Mr. Grinch. Well, I wouldn't touch you with a
39 and a half foot
You know, if you ask who's who there,
No one's denying